I'm supposed to follow that one. I'd always embraced my natural hair, and I'd always wanted to lock it. But when I went into the military in the 70s, I couldn't lock my hair. I couldn't braid it. I couldn't cornrow it either. So when I got out in 90, I said, I'm going to start my locks. And people were like, no, you're going into the corporate world. You can't get into the corporate world with dreads. So once I got into the corporate world, I started my locks. I later cut them off, but then in December of 98, my children lost their dad tragically, and he was Rasta. So in January of 99, I restarted my locks. And here we are today. There are times that I want to cut them just for cleansing, but I'm not gonna. I love them too much. They're a part of me. My daughter clipped them once, and I swear to you, I could feel it to my very core. Like I felt it in my soul. So here I am, almost 60 at that time, over 60 now, still rocking the locks. My nickname is Soul Sister.
Okay. When my father was in the casket, he literally had a crown of glory around his head. He hadn't lost any hair from the chemotherapy. In fact, the sicker he got, the thicker his hair became. We used to go to Miss Sheila's hair salon, and he'd get his mini locks or his coils done. And I'd sit across from him and get my flat twists or my two-strand twists. And the night before his funeral, Miss Sheila took the time to do his hair in coils, the same way he liked it when he was living. I didn't understand how powerful that experience of getting our natural hairstyles done together would be for me. It's really beautiful that he, as a Black father, put in that time to teach his Black daughter to love her natural hair. My mother and her patience and kindness when she was doing my hair every Sunday played an equally large role in my journey toward accepting and loving my Blackness in its entirety. My father was an activist, and both parents taught me that our history doesn't start in 1619 on the shores of America. As African Americans, we've created our own culture, and I'm very proud of this culture that we've created in the midst of so much chaos and oppression. But I just think about how we could have had so much more if we weren't completely stripped from all forms of African culture, including our hair traditions. So much of this knowledge was kept away from us when we were brought to this hemisphere. So relearning all that information, how to keep our hair moisturized, how to detangle it, how to trim it, how to style it in intricate patterns is so important. Because the only thing we've been taught for so long is how to get our hair to look closer to white beauty standards. Everything we've been told about our hair has been rooted in anti-Blackness. Enslaved Africans often had their hair shaved against their will because our hair was thought to be unsanitary. Black women were often required to cover up their hair, and we no longer had time to practice self-care. But we still found ways to use our hair as a means of freedom. A lot of our ancestors stored grains in their hair so they'd have food to escape if their communities in Africa were raided. or so they'd have food to take with them if they were captured. And some of our enslaved ancestors even mapped out their escape routes with intricate braids. We've always found a way to stay beautiful. You can't stop Black women from glowing. No matter how much you try to oppress us, no matter how much you try to push the white Eurocentric beauty standards on us, Black women and our natural physical features are still emulated globally and always will be. But Black women's needs have been put on the back burner for so long. So now I see self-care for Black women as a revolutionary act. And my parents taught me that self-care always includes our hair.
Oh, yeah.
So growing up, I always had my hair blown out. So I'm just getting used to my curly hair now. I'm still not completely comfortable with it. I have moments where I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna do my thing and wear my hair curly. But then if I hear any type of comment, I get put off balance. Like this past summer, I was wearing my hair curly a lot. And my coworker at my real estate job was like, curly hair just seems so immature to me. And then as days went by, I started thinking, maybe straight hair does look more mature. Isn't that crazy? I guess I just feel like I don't even have enough strength sometimes. And so I keep bouncing back and forth. Sometimes I still want to straighten my hair, even though it's damaging. My foundation for loving my natural hair isn't really solid. I'm still building it. So I guess my advice for others would be the same advice I had for myself. Don't think about what everyone else says, just do you. Wear your hair how it's supposed to be naturally. And begin building your foundation as soon as possible. Put in the work now to love yourself so that things will be easier later on.
So some of the women in the book also gave specific advice to Khloe, and so Michelle and Asha are just going to read their short letters for my sister Khloe, and by extension for all little Black girls.
Dear Khloe, you are beautiful the way you are, the way God made you, naturally. Embrace your hair. It is your crown. Wear it with pride. It's beautiful. Don't let anyone tell you anything differently. Love it and love yourself. That's what I tell my grandkids too. You know, it's you. It's a part of your heritage. So Khloe, stay natural, baby. Trust me, you're gonna love it.
Okay. Dear Khloe, I've been in your shoes. Even though I was raised to love my kinky hair and my Afrocentric features, what I was seeing in the media and at school still influenced me. I believed that my hair had to look more Eurocentric in order for it to be considered good hair. Thank God I'm out of that phase now, though. I'm praying for you and all the young girls who are where I was when I was growing up. Khloe, you are so freaking cute. I hope that she is beautiful. I hope to meet you one day, but I want to let you know your hair is absolutely gorgeous the way it is. It's already blossoming and flourishing. Just know that your hair is beautiful and it's exactly what it's supposed to look like. And just like a tree, your hair needs to be watered and hugged and nurtured in order for it to flourish. So speak life into it. Your natural hair is God's cotton. Your sister, Asha. Oh.
You're going back and forth. So Annalie's sister is also in the book, and so Annalie's just going to read her sister's piece, the piece from her little sister, who's one of the youngest girls in the book, and so that was cool too. I think to have girls who were closer to my sister's age give her direct advice and share their own stories from the perspective of a younger Black girl. And so Annalie's going to read her sister's piece.
Okay. So I don't know, was she like 12?
Yeah, maybe she's 12.
Okay, so here it goes. My mom has been blow drying my hair a lot, which causes heat damage and takes away my curls. So I basically have a little bit of curly hair, but not that much. Every time I wet my hair and let it dry for a little bit, it looks really heat damaged. One time I went to the salon to cut off the damaged ends, and my mom got mad. She thinks my hair is gonna turn out to be really bad. Like she thinks it's gonna turn nappy. She just likes it straight, but I hate blow drying my hair and it hurts. The heat, it really hurts. Embrace your natural hair, show it off. Don't do anything to change it. Yeah.
So I think it's really beautiful because since then, that was about 3 years ago that I interviewed Annalie's little sister, and since then she has cut off her hair, right? And she went natural, sort of against your mom's wishes. Yeah, Annalie took her to the salon. But yeah, so now she has shorter hair, and it's really beautiful. And so maybe that's a good starting point for us to talk about sort of how we learned self-love. And I know that we're all from different backgrounds, and we all have different relationships with our family members and their perceptions of our hair. But all of us are still working on our self-love journeys, and so we can start by talking about how we are building our foundations of self-love, or have already built strong foundations for self-love in terms of our hair.
That's how we all live.
Okay, smile on that one.
So what are we just talking about? My hair journey. My hair started out. You said Sundays getting your hair done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my Sunday was getting my hair done, sitting in a chair in front of the stove with the door open, hot comb on the stove. Yes. Okay. And I can smell the royal crown grease burning. I'm like, Mom, it's hurting. She's like, it's not, it's just the smoke. It's not burning. No, it's my scalp that's burning. I'm pulling, she's pulling back. Like I said, I'm over 60. So at that age, that's what we were doing. Hot comb, straightening your hair. So of course, as I got older, moving into the 70s, my nickname, Black Panther. I mean, I was really into into the movement. And I've always loved my hair, but I've always wanted my hair locked like it is. So as you heard me read, I was in the military, and when I was in the military a few years back, I couldn't even wear my hair braided or cornrowed at that time. So, but I did keep it natural. I cut it. I was perming for a minute, and then I shaved it off.
You look gorgeous.
Thank you. I stopped perming. My oldest daughter, Tiffany, started my locks. I cut them off, that in between stage. And then people are like, you're going in the corporate world, you can't wear your locks. And then I started them back in 99. And I've been locking since. I did cut them.
Yes, they were down to almost.
They were long. I had to.
It was a compromise.
It was a compromise.
I wanted to do something different. I said, you can cut them, but we're not taking them out.
Yes. So, and so all three of my daughters are natural. They wear their hair natural now. My granddaughters as well.
Yeah.
What's on there? So we're I've always taught them to, love yourself Love your hair. Self-care is definite. We've probably been doing self-care since they were kind of small. We do self-care. We do, even if it's just a day doing facials or, or Tiffany doing hair, or we doing nails or pedicures. You have to do that. That's for everybody. But yeah, so I love my hair. Natural. Sometimes I twist it, but lately I have just been letting it go. And it's gotten thicker and it's healthier. So I don't twist it as much as I used to. That's pretty much my story. Go natural, stay natural. I'm telling you, it's so freeing. It is so freeing. It really is. I mean, even you're natural, you can still put your little braids, and rock your braids, and then you can take it out and you got your wavy fro, so yeah, so that's my story.
Miss Michelle, it's so interesting that you said that in your generation you were getting your hair hot comb, because even though we're two different generations, because I grew up in the 2000s, I was born in the 90s, grew up in the 2000s, but that is the same practice that was passed down in my family on my mother's side. So just a little bit of background. My father, his hair texture is was very kinky. I don't really like doing the hair typing system, but it would be what people consider to be like a 4C hair. Wow. And my mother, her hair is really, it's curly, but it's like a looser curl pattern. And I'm really ashamed to say this. Now, my mother's hair is absolutely beautiful. Both of my parents' hair are gorgeous, respectively. But I remember looking at my hair and noticing that it was more like my dad's, which was the kinkier texture, and wondering why God did not give me the looser texture. And the reason why is because I remember when I would get my hair done, a lot of the hairdressers would talk about how unmanageable my hair was. Mm-hmm. I remember one time my hair broke the teeth off the comb.
They had a cheap comb.
Yeah. So, but because I have my father gave me affirmations, my mother still to this day gives me affirmations. Your hair is strong, your hair is beautiful. It's a blessing to have thick hair. It didn't really faze me. But at the same time, as I said in the excerpt that I read, even though I was getting those affirmations at home and in the community that I grew up in here in DC, I was seeing those Eurocentric beauty standards being held on a high pedestal in magazines, in movies, on television. The love interest was always the white woman or the woman who had more Eurocentric features. The people who would get featured on the front cover of the magazine, their hair wasn't in a short afro, it didn't have shrinkage, as we call it. So it was really hard for me to believe that what my parents and what my community were telling me about how beautiful my hair was. And as Black women, we don't only deal with texturism, there's colorism, there's featureism. So growing up, but thankfully I did get my hair hot combed a lot, but then I also got it in a lot of natural styles too. And Miss Sheila, I don't know where she is today, but she had this natural hair salon on 8th Street called it wasn't twists and turns. I forget the name of it. But my experience getting my hair done with my father. You don't know what
I used to go there.
I don't remember.
I don't remember the Sheila. I'm so sorry. I just had a like.
They're a Liberian family. They're from Liberia. We're gonna have to find her.
We're gonna have to find her.
Yes.
Yeah.
But she would take the time to do my hair. She'd take the time to do my father's hair. And just that experience of her just, massaging through my strands and being patient and not complaining about it really helped me to love it as well when I was young. And then by the time I got to high school, I think I was flat ironing it a lot and I got heat damage. And then when I got to college, I started wearing weaves. I don't think there's anything wrong with Black women wearing weaves, by the way, as long as it's not out of self-hate. But it wasn't until I turned, I think, maybe 24 or 25 that I started to just surrender to my natural hair and wearing more natural styles with my own hair, like 2-strand twists and flats and things like that. So I still go back and forth between like passion twists and knotless braids and styles with extensions, but it's out of a place of loving my hair now. It's not because I think that I need it to be more beautiful or accepted or validated externally. And it's a work in progress. So that's it. I'm a work in progress.
Thank you. I wanted to say, it's so crazy that it hasn't been that long since, you couldn't wear braids in the military, like you mentioned. I was like, it's such an eye opener to be sitting next to you. I was like, that wasn't that long ago. So yeah, thank you. I have a similar story. Like my mom, she's Dominican, my dad's Dominican, and she has like the straight, she's like her side of the family, everybody's like Taino, so real straight hair, and then my dad's side is like, that's where all the kinky hair comes from. And so I always I grew up with my cousins on her side more, and they always had, their straight hair, and I had to like sit under the dryer and wait before I can play. And I was like, oh, like I want to, like, why can't I just go play too? And so I grew up with that. Every week I had to get my hair done. I had relaxers in my head growing up. And then I think after high school, when I moved in with Anne, that's when I stopped getting relaxers. And I ended up cutting my hair, you remember that? So I cut my hair really short. And she would always encourage me, like, just wear your hair. And I'm like, no, why? No, I can't. And then I went to school with Bianca right there. She was my best friend in high school. And even like at times we'll be like, look, we can't hang out because his hair is like, I'm going to the salon. And I'm like, so it was just a big piece of who I was, just always getting my hair done. If my hair wasn't done, then I wasn't done, I wasn't presentable. And like I said, I'm not completely, I do straighten my hair here and there still. So I'm not like completely natural all the way, I'm not gonna lie. But I have gotten to a place where I'm accepting it more now than ever. Where I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna wake up and throw on something, throw on some clothes and keep it moving without thinking twice about my hair. So it's a process, like she said, I'm still going through it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it's definitely a process. And for me, as I mentioned in my letter for Khloe, like my mom is white and she's right there. And so growing up, she always told me that my hair was beautiful and always really wanted me to love my hair. But again, like the example of beauty that I was seeing right in front of me, I think we idolize our moms and, it's like the most beautiful person in the world. And so I thought, okay, and my hair doesn't look like hers. Right. And so my hair is less beautiful than hers. And that was difficult. And actually my kindergarten was majority Black here in DC. And there I think that I did, like my hair. I didn't really actively hate it. And I remember even, some of my classmates sometimes like they would have braids or certain styles. Like I remember there were these two twins one day who I was friends with, and they had this really cute like braided hairstyle. It was like 3 sort of like randomly placed braids. And I told my mom, I was like, I really want you to do my hair that way. But then when I went to first grade, I started at a new school, Aiden Montessori school, here in DC, and it's majority white. And so all of a sudden I just was constantly every single day surrounded by people who didn't look like me,
I would never do that again.
And that's another conversation, but I think that school had a lot of really great resources. But the trade-off was that I wasn't around people who looked like me. And so every single day I saw people with light skin and with straight hair and with long hair. And every day I just wished that I would look like them, even like my facial features, everything. I just felt so different every day. And I never asked my mom for any kind of braids or Afrocentric hairstyles anymore. I really wanted my hair to sort of be like in a ponytail or a bun all the time. And my mom would always, say, oh, you should leave your hair out or let me just brush it out. And I never liked that. I always wanted it to be sort of out of the way where you couldn't see the curls. And then I remember the first time when I learned about flat irons, because my mom had never told me that like perms existed or flat irons or any of that, think intentionally. And then when I think I was maybe in 4th or 5th grade, and I was over my friend's house, who was a quarter Chilean, and she has sort of wavy hair, and she and her mom were using this flat iron, and they were explaining to me that like you can use a flat iron to straighten your hair. And I thought that was mind-blowing and revolutionary. And I was like, wow, there's a way that my hair can be beautiful, like through this flat iron. And so for every formal event, I always wanted to straighten my hair, like dances and middle school and high school, picture day, like all of that. I always wanted my hair to be straight because I thought that was the most beautiful way that I could wear my hair. And it wasn't until I got to college and was surrounded by more Black women who were going natural or who were already natural. And so that was eye-opening for me. And it's crazy that we go through so much of our lives and so much of our childhoods really seeing ourselves as not beautiful. But when I got to college, I really started seeing Blackness as something that could be beautiful after like 2 decades of thinking that Blackness and beauty just weren't compatible. Mm-hmm. And then it wasn't until I did this book and really was intentionally surrounding myself with Black women with natural hair and talking about natural hair and sort of the significance of it and the deeper meaning behind it, that I think I really fell into this place of deep self-love, and my hair wasn't just something that was, oh yeah, it's beautiful, but I really see it now as like a connection to my ancestors, to the strength of my ancestors on my father's side. And so I'm really grateful that so many people shared their stories with me, because even though I started this book for Khloe, I feel like I got so much out of it too. So I'm really grateful for that.
Thank you all so much for sharing those beautiful stories and insights into your experiences. So just another round of applause for you. really grateful that we get to have you all here and to have this book here. And I'm going to jumpstart the Q&A session here. So if you have questions, start thinking of them, and we'll do like a nice little hand raising orderly thing. But my first question for you is, and I'm sure every Black woman, every Black femme, probably every Black person in this country has heard the phrase, "Oh, well, it's just hair," right? And that's usually used to dismiss not only like the deep legacy of pain that we have experienced because of how our hair is devalued and our beauty is devalued in this country, but also to dismiss how now that we're in a generation of like very much feeling ourselves and very much going for it, going for natural hair, going for all of the elements of Black beauty that that we invented, right? Some other people are latching onto that and sort of for lack of a better word, and this might just be the word, colonizing it. And I just want to hear what your thoughts are, what all of your thoughts are, if you have them, on how it isn't just hair and how the cultural artifact of our hair matters so much, especially more and more nowadays.
Or do you want to go? Okay. Is it on? So. Hello? Okay. I think that, yeah, I think that when people say, oh, it's just hair, I think it's dismissive of the history of our hair. And I know that I think, our education system isn't super comprehensive. I think we miss out on a lot in our education system growing up in the US. There's a lot that we just don't know. But, when our ancestors were brought, to the Americas or to the Caribbean, they were not allowed to keep their hair traditions for the most part that our ancestors had in Africa, because back in Africa, pre-colonization, they had all of these different ways of doing their hair, and it was a really big part of their culture, right? Like some hairstyles would take days and they would signify all of these different things like age, social status, marital status, and so hair was just a really big piece of our ancestors' culture, and that was all sort of stripped from our ancestors when they were brought to this side of the world. And so first, I think when people say it's just hair, I think that's dismissive of that history. And even, over here in the Americas, my mom and I were just talking today, I hope that I pronounce it right. It was the Tinian laws? Tinian laws in Louisiana back during slavery that were put in place and said that Black women couldn't just wear their hair out. Their hair had to be covered. And so that's just one example of how our hair has been policed in this country back then, and even now, as we're seeing in certain schools, where Black children are getting punished for wearing their natural hair. And one of the women in my book, actually, who was from Oklahoma, was saying that she straightened her hair every single day, even though she went to swim practice in the evenings, and so her hair got curly again every evening, but she would straighten it every morning. And one morning it just wasn't working, and so she decided, I'm just going to leave my hair, curly today. And she ended up getting sent to the principal's office and sent home from school just for wearing her natural curly hair that day, because they told her it was an unnatural hairstyle. And that's just one example. And in the workplace, we see that too. Another woman who I talked to in the book said that she, she had her hair in a high bun, and, but it wasn't straightened, it was natural. And her boss actually said, you need to do something else with your hair because this just isn't working. And so she ended up quitting that job because she decided that she was worth more than that. Mm-hmm. But I think that our hair is so heavily policed and plays such a huge role in our lives and what we can and can't do. And so I think that when people say it's just hair, I think that there's just a lack of education there. And I hope that people of all races and backgrounds really take the time to understand what our hair means to us.
So earlier we were talking about how when we wear our natural hair now, it's like it has to be curly and it has to have the baby hairs and it has to be like, yeah, it has to be styled. And so we just, I mean, it's just weird how even in the word like natural, we haven't even grasped the term at all. It's just it's unnatural. And so I just wanted to put that out there, yeah, because we mentioned that, you know, I don't even know what word did you use?
Oh, it's gone.
Yeah,
Colonized, yeah.
colonized. So yeah.
I won't say too much, but well, we know it's not just hair. That's just another way that people gaslight Black women. And especially, Michelle, you were talking about how when you cut your locks, you felt that, right? I felt it. It's not just hair. For a lot of people, hair is, especially for us as Black women, there's ancestral memory. Our hair is very spiritual. I don't want to talk too much about this because I don't have my notes with me. But on the event, at the event on Tuesday, I spoke about how I learned about how some of the Maroons in Suriname, there's a video of a woman who is of Maroon descent, and basically she was showing how they would hide grains, enslaved African women would hide grains, rice grains, in between the parts before they would braid their hair. I don't know if it was when they were going on the Middle Passage, but definitely when they were brought over, when they were escaping some of the plantations, they would hide those rice grains in their cornrows. And they only needed a little bit. So by the time they got to where they needed to get, they would plant them and it would grow in abundance. So it's not just hair, and it gives a whole new meaning. I remember I was reading an Essence, an article about it in Essence magazine, and it said that gives a whole new meaning to protective style. So, you know, it's not just hair, and I don't even take the time or energy to explain
We need a couple more hours.
about that, because you know,
And the
We know.
irony.
and the irony.
Right, because it's like, it's just hair, but then you want it to be a certain way.
Yeah, and it's as we know, it's emulated globally, like the different styles that we have innovated over the years. So it's not just hair.
And we can open it up for a few more questions from the audience. You can just go ahead and raise your hand or stand up.
Hi, so I do have a question. So as like the rise of like, you know, accepting natural hair and like these different styles, I was just wondering, with like that being said, how can other people who aren't African American, you know, not make a contribution, but like, how can we include other people without there being like cultural appropriation? Because we see like a lot of people want to do cornrows and different hairstyles, but certain groups of people are like, this isn't meant for you. And I feel like it just creates this cycle where we're excluding people, but then at the same time, we want to include others, but it's like the argument, oh, you're not, this isn't meant for you. So how do you guys think we can include everybody or have a cohesive understanding of natural hair, even if you're not Black?
We talked about that earlier. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, yeah.
I think, yeah, I mean, I think that you can, I think it's one thing to appreciate another person's culture, and then it's another thing to, mimic it
And not give credit.
and not give credit. Like, I think about Kim Kardashian, right? And everyone's favorite when she did the cornrows.
I can take it back to Bo Derek.
Yeah, and Kim Kardashian called them her Bo Derek braids, but they were cornrows, right? And Bo Derek is a white actress, right? And so she called them the braids basically by the name of this white woman, when really it's an Afrocentric hairstyle. And so by doing that, she was really, I think, erasing all of the history of cornrows throughout African culture. And I think that you can appreciate something. Yeah.
But is that really on Kim Kardashian, or is that really on your history books here in America?
Yeah, that's a good question. And
If she doesn't know, she doesn't know.
I think she
Right,
has the
but
money.
if she doesn't know, she doesn't
Yeah.
know. So I grew up in England and I grew up here. And in England, we learned we learned about Egyptian, African heritage. But when I came to America, there was none of that. All it was whitewashed history. So I can't fault someone who's only gone to school in America and learn what they've learned, if that's what they think that it is. And some people, everyone isn't inclined to push the envelope on education. If you say, this is my education, this is what I've been taught. So we can't fault someone. Not that I'm a Kim Kardashian supporter, I'm just playing devil's advocate. But if someone isn't out there teaching them other than their government, then who is, and how can we fault her?
She's old enough. She's had 3 black children. She's married to Kanye West, and she knows what she's doing. Everything about the Kardashians is an appropriation of Black culture without giving.
Well, they're
nods to Black
Persians.
culture. Sorry?
I mean, they're not white, so.
No, but they're not Black either. And for her to say, I didn't know, because at first the cornrows didn't bother me at all, because I thought maybe it could be kind of like a nod. But if she's saying that she's doing her Bo Derek thing, that's ridiculous.
Well, who's to say that's not her only reference? How
That
is that her
cannot be
fault?
her only reference. She's
I don't
surrounded
know.
by African Americans.
We have cell phones.
Yeah.
That's smart.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm half white, half Black. I just think it's a little. I don't know.
And I think that
It's
we
like,
live
sure.
in a place where it's like
Your
we're-
education is horrible here
we're trying to
towards Black people and African Americans, and I think that's where it should start. When I grew up in England, I knew about what happens in Africa. I knew Egyptian. I know that. So we can't blame the citizens for what they've been taught when they haven't been taught anything.
I do wonder at what point do we,
I get
I get what you're saying, but I do wonder at what point in our life, like after what age, is it our responsibility?
Oh no, I'm on both
Just go
sides.
ahead
I'm
and
just
look
playing
on
devil's
Beyonce's
advocate. Trust me,
internet
I'm
and
not.
see,
You're not there.
You know?
She could have Googled it, but I'm saying, the people that don't know, the people, so there are some people that don't know. We're talking, there are some people that don't have the education level, those phones, that those sources or those resources at their fingertips. Maybe they're thinking they're doing a nod. Maybe they don't know. Maybe, as we take everything to be a cultural appropriation, how do we not know that it's something different?
I don't know. I mean,
That's a
You
good
know.
I think,
segue
I think
into.
I would agree with you if she would have came out and said,
Yes,
I'm sorry, and this is the correct term,
Right.
and I would, we're gonna,
right.
we have to stick to
Right,
it.
right. So
And
we
she
can take it
didn't.
from her, but there are some people that to them it's like, this is a nod. I love my, and it's not such a hate-filled thing. Now, trust me, like I said, I'm not a Kardashian. I think that it is appropriation, and that was just the example that was used just now. So I piggybacked off of that. But there are other people that they may not know, and it may not be that, they may not be they may not be dating a Black person. They may be of African descent. They may not know, and this is where they live, this is where they grew up, this is where they know. But hey, I like this, that, and that about a Black person. So everything isn't hate-filled, everything isn't appropriation, everything isn't mockery. Sometimes it is flattery.
Well, that's a good segue into, I'll ask the next question. I think that the cultural conversation is so important. And when you're talking about cultural appropriation or appreciation or who knows what, and how do they learn what they learn, the number one thing to do in that situation, in my opinion, is to listen to Black people and what they say. And so I'm curious about what your opinion is of everyone, please, at the table. what your opinion is about how Black voices are listened to about our issues, and when it comes to especially social nuance, how is harm mitigated when maybe it wasn't intentional but harm was done, and how do we uplift the voices of the people who are actually affected and actually a part of the community?
I think it's important to not be. I just think it's important. One thing that's important is to not be defensive and understand that, like, when people are telling you these things, oftentimes it's a question not of being like called out, but of being called in. And if someone is taking the time to educate you and really explain something to you, I think that that's important. And it's actually interesting because just yesterday I was telling Annalie about this. I got a message from a Black woman who's like darker skinned and has curlier hair and or like a tighter curl pattern. And she asked me sort of like to consider my role in creating this book when I have light skin privilege and a looser curl pattern, right? And I think that that's a really important discussion, and I see how you know, darker skinned Black women with tighter curl patterns are so often left out of the natural hair movement. And so I was really grateful for the opportunity, you know, and she wants to chat with me, and I'm really excited about that because I think that when someone is trying to educate us on something that may have caused harm, it's really an honor to be able to listen to that person and learn from them.
So I just wanted to say that, like, we live in a society where everything we do as Black people, we're constantly thinking about, oh, how do we include them? Or like, you know, just being extra cautious about the way we move. And I think it's a good question, but at the same time, I do want to ask, like, when are we include, like, you know, like it's time for them to include us, you know? And so I don't think that, I think we should be asking ourselves, like, why aren't we more unapologetic about ourselves?
I guess I had a question with more of a statement, sort of kind of. Okay, so I am all for inclusion, right? But I do feel like that there are some things that's just not what should happen. You know, if we're talking about Black women and their natural hair, how are we necessarily including somebody in that doesn't check those boxes? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like we say, yes, you can appreciate it and that, but to say like we should include, it's just some stuff that on all sides, all spectrums of the rainbow, inclusion is just not part of that discussion. Right. Or at least that's how I
know. No, Black people in this country and all across the diaspora, we've given so much. We've given so much time, we've given energy, we've built societies and empires. We built this country for free. I don't think we owe anybody. And I don't think, I think inclusion is important, but at the same time, we have to be very, very careful of who we allow in. That's a very tricky word, especially when it comes to our tradition and our heritage and all of those things. Because I think we've been taken advantage of for so long that if we give even a peephole to people, especially if we say, oh, well, even if you're not Black, you can wear this hairstyle. You're invited to the cookout. We do that a lot. That I think that gives people who are non-Black, a dangerous amount of room to take ownership later on down the line. So
which has happened a million times in this country.
Yes.
Like Elvis Presley,
yeah.
Et cetera, et cetera.
So I think we have to learn from that as Black people.
Hey, I just wanted to say, cut anybody off. I was just gonna say, I think the way that we can do it a little bit is like, you know, using words like colonialism as opposed to like appropriation, because it's like to be made appropriate, you know?
I love
That's all I want to say.
We'll time for one or two more questions.
Yeah, it was such a celebratory book, I think. And so I wanted to ask, what has Khloe's reaction been?
Yeah, Khloe, I saw her 2 months ago in the Caribbean. She lives in France. I obviously live here. But we met up in St. Bart's, which is the island where my dad is from. And I showed her the book and she loved it and she's really excited. She loves that all these people like know her and have spoken to her. And she also, I thought this was really cute. So she's 8 years old now. But she wanted me to interview her and ask her why she loves her natural hair. Almost like she wanted to be like in community with you guys, you know? And so I thought that was really a testament to the sisterhood of Black women. And I'm so grateful that there were so many people who came together to teach her how to love herself.
More?
Yes,
It wasn't really an important question.
Yes, it is.
No. Because I just wanted to ask you if you remember, it was online, but I just wanted to ask you if you remember coming to my school on the computer and talking to my
Yeah, that was really beautiful. And I remember one of your classmates said that she and her mom had always just sort of straightened their
Yeah, that was,
oh yeah,
that was my friend Naima.
Oh, nice. Your friend Naima?
Yeah.
Oh, my best friend's name is Naima. But yeah, so yeah, I remember she was talking about how she was also sort of wanting to go natural and embrace her natural hair. I thought that was beautiful. It was so nice to talk to you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's this?
Can I ask Michelle a question? Hey, Michelle. You were talking about, your nickname was Black Panther back in the day, and I saw your picture the other day on your Instagram with your afro.
Yeah,
Was that your high school?
Yes.
Or college? Oh my gosh.
That was
it's so
high school.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
So one of the things I've been thinking about and like frankly worrying a little bit about is like in the 80s, I imagine people looked back, 10 or 15 years and said, wow, look at all these beautiful people with their afros. What happened?
That's a real question.
That's a good question.
And I worry now that like 10 to 15 years from now, people might look back at this panel, Asha and you, and be like, oh, what happened? We're all
I was sitting here thinking that actually, like, wow, we were in that time. Yeah, we were all Afro. My family picture, one of my family pictures, afros, crazy afros. My mom, my sister, my brother, and I mean, big afros. And yeah, that's a good question.
I feel like it might be sort of like that racial capitalism thing. Racial,
What? Yeah, that's.
Where they're just sort of like, I mean, already I feel like I'm reading articles online like, oh, why Black women are getting tired of their natural hair. Just dumb shit like, oh, my hands are getting tired working their hair. And I'm like, this is nothing to me but like a propaganda game to sort of like turn back the hands of time once again.
Yeah.
So that Black women are like, again, like a prisoner to this crazy Eurocentric idea. And I just wonder like, what would be like, how do we prevent this iteration of the natural hair phenomenon, not a movement, but like a whole, like, because I feel like it's not a hairstyle, it's a whole heritage.
It's a heritage,
right?
and
like, how do we stop that from happening?
It starts at home. You start at home. Like I did with my kids. She's doing with her daughter. And we have people like St. Clair that went to virtually to Carly's class, and look at what you did, Naima. And I saw her the other day, and she is natural. So we have to have these conversations, and not just with us, but with us, if that makes any sense. I think we should have some rap sessions, that's what we used to do back in the day. You get together and you just rap about, like we're doing now, but I think we need to do that more. I think we all need to sit down and just cop a squat and rap, and just talk about it. Yeah, that's a good question, Anna. What happened?
I also think what St. Clair is doing as part of it too.
Yeah.
Putting the representation
Of
out there
course.
for them to be able to see that stuff. So she's taking the steps.
Yes.
Like, you'll do this, and then I think I saw like another similar type of book, not about hair, but it was like Black love and women, and then it just keeps going and going and going.
And I've been seeing it on the news a lot.
Yeah, yes.
Fox 5 is lit. Yes, I have.
And even on MSNBC,
Yeah.
Miss Joy Reid, absolutely gorgeous. She wears her natural hair.
Yeah.
And seeing these visuals consistently for us, very important. But I have to give credit to my beautiful Black sisters on YouTube. We see a lot of them who are embracing their natural hair. As you know, the Black community is not a monolith at all. So I think you're right about that being propaganda, because there are a lot more people, a lot more Black women than we think, who are embracing natural hair, wearing afros, wearing regular 2-strand twists, wearing plaits, and things like that. Like I said, I don't think there's anything wrong with the extensions at all. That's a protective style. But in terms of the natural hair, I have faith in us that we're gonna keep it going.
Yeah.
Thank you, y'all.
Let's do this with a round of applause. Now we have a few more minutes to just mingle around. There is wine over there for anyone who's. I work for Big Wine, everybody. Take a few moments to walk around and chat with each other and get your book signed if you're here to buy a book, or if you already have one. Get to know each other, etc.
Thank you, guys. Yeah.